do this evening, I'm sort of making the assumption that Parish Online is fairly new to you both.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it before, but not actually used it. I have had it on one of my computers, but never got round to using it.
So what I thought I would do is just give you a very fast run through of the sorts of things that one uses it for. And then we'll look at some of the specific issues that you're facing in the near future and how we can use it to address some of those. And at the end of that, I hope that you'll have every question answered and you'll be wondering why you didn't use it a year ago. But, so what I'm going to do is share my screen, and then we'll go through, as I said, a quick demo for about 15-20 minutes to start with, and then we'll go and look at some of your particular issues. So we are recording this, so I can send you a copy of the video afterwards, so you don't need particularly to make notes, because everything that we say and do will be recorded, and you'll see what I'm doing on the screen in Parish Online, so you can take a look at that for reference later if you wish. And then also at the end of the session, I'll send you an email with a document that lists all the sorts of useful links and contacts that we talked about, so that you can get into the system should you wish to, in terms of support from other people and that sort of thing. Okay.
Okay.
So I'm going to share the screen right now, and hopefully we can go into, oh, no, I always do this. I keep forgetting to start with a fresh look. There we go. So Parish Online is 100% cloud-based system. So all you need is a browser at your end. Everything that you've going to be doing will be stored up in the cloud for you. And so you don't have to worry about IT, you don't have to worry about storage space, you don't have to worry about your server being up. It's all taken care of for you remotely. Now I'm just logging in as you would. And the first thing that you'll note is that it always starts up where it thinks you are. So in my case, it thinks I'm in Long Sutton in Somerset, and so it starts up there. But in point of fact, the system can show you anywhere in the country. So if I just by sheer chance happen to type in your postcode, hopefully it will go there. Well, maybe it doesn't like it.
I think you've got some spurious characters in the middle there. But
I have, haven't I? Yes, it doesn't like that one. Why is that? But there we go. Try that. Okay, and you'll see that we're now looking straight at Drayton. And you can do this with anywhere in the country. So I'll come back to your area towards the end of the session. Right now, I'm going to use my area for demonstrations just because I know where everything is. And then hopefully when we get to your turn, you'll know where everything is at your turn. So I'm going to come back to Long Sutton. And here we go. And the first thing is just to describe what you're looking at. So on the right-hand side of the screen, the larger part, you're looking at the Ordnance Survey's digital map of the UK, which is phenomenally good detailed. You can zoom out and look at the entire country, or you can zoom in using the plus and minus buttons here and get down to minuscule detail, really down to a few centimeters if you're worried about it. But we'll cover all that as we go through. And then on the left-hand side of the screen, you have a column of layers of information, and each one of these bars represents a collection of underlying layers that you can pull in and out as you need to make the picture clearer. And then this column changes character as we go through various things. But the thing that really irritates me about Parish Online is that when it starts up with all these blue boundary lines on here. And for some reason, I've no idea what it is, but they really irritate me. So I use them to show you how you turn layers off. So if I come down here, I've clicked on this brown boundary layer. You'll see that it's opened up to show the collections underneath, and the parish boundaries has got a tick mark by it, which means it's active. If I just click anywhere on this line, they disappear, which is a much more appealing state of affairs as far as I'm concerned. And then I'm going to just zoom out a little bit to show you what happens if you bring in other layers. Now, it just so happens that here in Somerset, we're very prone to flooding when it rains. So I've gone up into the search box at the top, typed in flood, and it tells me where I can get flooding information. The Environment Agency has a whole bunch of layers. So if I say, well, show me what happens when we have a zone 3 flood, and look, most of us have disappeared underwater. So you can see that bringing in outside information is really useful when you want to consider things like planning applications, you know, someone planning to build a house where you get flooded out several times a year, or they're putting it where there's a conservation area or grade 2 listed houses. All those sorts of things are available. So that if I turn off the flooding layers and say, actually, I do have an interest in grade 2 listed houses. So let's take a look at those. They'll be in something like historic England. So I say, show me the listed buildings, and look at that. I'm surrounded by history. So this is now where I'm going to show you what's called location-based data. So every single one of these green dots represents an entry in the database, and you just need to click on any one of them to bring up the entry in the database. So I'm choosing to click this one, and up it pops, and it tells me that it's an old explosive store. So if you can see that this left-hand column has now changed to the data record. And you can do this with all of these dots, whatever you like, and you'll see that there's a link here that'll take you straight to the website for Historic England that concerns that particular entry. And this is the way that the entire system works. So you can do this with all the layers, with all the data, and there's no end of stuff. In fact, it's very dangerous to get into Parish Online because you may never come out. It's so fascinating, but it does have its issues. So that was the sort of the layers. You've got literally hundreds of layers of information coming from third parties. Now, where you would be interested is in what does your district council and your county council do for you? And in our case, we have a very friendly and helpful council, and they export to Parish Online all sorts of information that we like. So let me just turn off these buildings because they're getting in the way now. Come back to what, oops, sorry, let's go up here. We get from Somerset. So one of the things that everybody asks during COVID-19 is where are all the footpaths? Well, you can say, well, just turn them on, and there they are. And as you zoom into them, you start getting more and more detail, so that you suddenly see that now we've zoomed in, their ID numbers have turned up. So you can refer to everything by the same ID that the county council uses. And if that's not of interest to you, lots of parents are interested to know what are the catchment areas for each school. So we get those. Salt bins, we like to know, A, where the county council thinks they are, because we sometimes know that they're not quite there. And it's always very useful in the winter months to know which are the gritting routes. So this sort of stuff from the local council is brilliant. And if Norfolk isn't giving you that information, then you need to start a battle with them to get it. And I'm very happy to help you there because I run the Parish Online user group, and one of our jobs is to help you get more data from the local authorities. So that's the county council. We also have the district council is working on our side, and they're producing layers of information as well. So those are some of the local authorities that can help you with layers of data and really make things much more pertinent to you in your location. Then there's all the ones that we've been looking at that cover the whole country. And you can look at stuff that's pertinent to you in your location. And then there's two things which are really, really crucial to you. One is a built-in system called the Asset Register. And this shows you all the things that you'd expect to see in any parish or town council. And it comes as a pre-configured database. So it gives you all the empty records, and all you need to do is fill them. So if you're looking for things like grit bins or dog poo bins or buildings or your defibrillators, whatever it happens to be, this is where you record the data. And what you're effectively doing, because most councils have got some idea of what assets they own, is I'm hoping that you're going to bring the data out of a paper-based filing cabinet, stick it into a digitally based system that's available 24/7 to anybody, so that when, Sarah, you disappear off on your annual holidays to Montserrat and you've taken the key to the filing cabinet with you and you've locked it up, the rest of us can actually still get the data because it isn't in the filing cabinet anymore, thank goodness. And you'll only notice it when you dive into the swimming pool and the key falls out, and then you think, oops. So the sorts of things that you want to keep, well, most councils have some sort of a building as an asset. So I'm turning on the buildings layer, and you'll notice that a couple of icons have popped up. And if I say, tell me all about this one, same system, you click on it and it'll tell you what it is. So in this case, this is our local pump house, which is in fact just the old village pump, which was there for pumping water for horses as they drove through. And someone's built a stone building around it. And for some strange reason, that building is now worth nearly £15,000, which is what we have to insure it for. And of course, the asset register is primarily driven by a need to know what have you got, but B, a need to know what you're insuring it for. And so you stick in things here like the insurance value, the replacement value, which is the key thing as far as insurance companies are concerned. And if there's a need for inspections, then you set up an inspection routine. And every time somebody does an inspection of this asset, you can make a record of it. And you've got due diligence there, really good governance that you can demonstrate to the insurance company that they're defending you against the claim. Or if you're making a claim against them, you can say it wasn't your fault that the whole building fell down. You'd inspected it every 6 months. Whatever it happens to be, but this is your due diligence. And in your records, you can add anything as an attachment. So any document of an inspection or an invoice showing that the work was done by a contractor, or in this case, we've got a couple of photographs of the building just so that people in the insurance company know what on earth we're talking about. All these sorts of things are now in your digital asset register. So that was buildings. If I come out of here, turn off the buildings, you can go into building contents. And that sort of thing is, do you have, in our case, we have solar panels, or we've got ground heat pumps for our village hall. So they're in there. Defibrillators, nearly everybody has a defibrillator nowadays. You can see that we've got 2. And again, click on one, and up it pops and it tells you when it was inspected, where do we report the inspections, all the things that basically show that you are doing as a council what you're supposed to be doing. So the asset register is in itself lots and lots of layers of information. What I'm going to do now is turn off the defibrillators, go into a playground area, because we really want to show you some of the tools that are built into Parish Online that can help you in your work. So here's something I've sort of done a little earlier. We've added in our play areas and put them in here, and you can do this for any of yours. So the Ordnance Survey knows that this is a recreation ground, but it doesn't know how many swings and various climbing frames and things there are in the play area. But it is important to us, let's say, to know how big the play area is. So you can go up to the tools and say, I want to measure. And it says, do you want to measure length or area? Well, let's go for area. So then you say, you'll notice that my little mouse now has changed from an arrow to a crosshairs. I can click on one corner, just click once, drag the mouse, and you'll see there's a line following it. Down to the next corner, click again, and double click there to show I've finished. And instantly, I know the area of my play area. And you can do the same for length. So if you need to know how far it is from the church to the school, just measure it. It's exactly the same technique and very convenient too. And then we sort of store our well, I don't store the playground equipment there. That's not a good choice, but basically you can see how you can do this for things that exist And then when it comes to putting in things that don't yet exist, you have what you call the parish layers. Now, everything else here has been information that somebody else has provided. And because it's somebody else's information, you can't touch it. It is what it is, it's theirs. They just give it to you because they're very kind-hearted souls. But the asset register is your information, you've input it, but it is a fixed structure. In other words, it comes to you ready-made inside Parish Online. But then there are plenty of times when you want to do something that isn't in the asset register and it isn't in one of the third-party layers, so you create it yourself. And they very nicely call this collection of parish layers. So these are all the things that we've put in earlier. And the classic one to display is planning applications. So let me just turn off this one in the, I must have one somewhere. In the asset register, sorry, there we go. Let me just turn it off. Go away. So let's now go back to the parish layers. And this is where you put in your own information that is something that you've created because it's of importance to you. And most people like to know about planning applications. So if I just zoom out a little bit so that we can see what the impact is. If I turn on the planning applications, so let's just say for last year, you'll see, wow, they've all popped up and they don't make a lot of sense at this sort of scale. So you need to zoom in a bit. And we'll say, let's zoom into this mass of color here. And we'll see that there's one area of the village that's had lots and lots of things going on, and we color code them. So greens are ones that have been accepted and they're on their way to being done. So again, usual principle, click on them, up it comes. You can store the date that the application came in, when we looked at it, what our decision was, what the planning authority's decision was. And here is the link to their page. So if they've got a portal, you just click on there. It goes off to, in our case, South Somerset District Council. And here's their thing with all the relevant documents that you need to know for that particular application. Everything.
Can I just ask you a question there?
Go for it.
Have you actually put those planning application numbers in yourself, or are they input by the district council? Are they on the district council layer?
It all depends what information your district council is putting out, Anne. So I don't know what yours is doing, but ours is, it's a work in progress. They promise it, but it hasn't happened yet. But they have been extremely helpful in other areas. So I don't have any grounds for believing it isn't going to happen. It just isn't going to happen in 2021, which is what they promised. And so it may happen sometime in 2022. But at the moment, it hasn't happened. So I am putting them in personally. But if they produce them for you, you don't have to do a thing. It's lovely. It just shows up automatically, which is marvelous. All I'm doing is showing you what can be done to make it more helpful to you. Now, the last thing that is of importance to you is, having got all this information in here, then the question is, how do you get it out to the people who want to see it, the members of the public and so forth? And there are several ways, but the one I'm just going to show you quickly, since it's here on the planning applications that we're looking at, is there's a way called public map of sending out this information to your village website, where people can just click on it exactly the same way as you were here and see everything. So just going along with the principle of, here's something I did a little earlier. If I go into our public maps and say, show me our planning applications, this is what pops up. Now you'll see that this is a URL that you can send to anybody. There's also the system produces the code that your web designer will need to put this onto your village website. And then when people go in, they can see this and they say, well, this is useless. So they can scroll in or zoom in, sorry. And then they say, we're looking now at the area where we were before. And there up comes all the details. What we've done this time is thrown in an overhead photograph so that people can actually recognize where they are from photographs. And because this is working on a cloud system, it takes a little while for the huge amounts of data in a photograph to catch up. So it all looks very fuzzy at the moment, but in a minute, there we go, it'll suddenly jump into clarity. And then you can do exactly the same thing. You can click on an item and up pops exactly the same data record with the same link to the local planning authority. So that everybody has got access to the details that you've got, but with a few of the extra things that you've put in. So because there are attachments to these records, you can add in photographs, you can add in any comments that you think are sort of pertinent. This is all available to the general public, just as if they were looking at Parish Online themselves. And to me, the really appealing thing is that whenever you make a change inside Parish Online, it's automatically reflected in the public map, which is fabulous, right? So I think I've really concentrated on showing you the major things that you can do. What I thought I might do now is go into some of the stuff that you want to do, just to show you more of what's possible. And to do that, maybe I should go back to let's go back to postal codes. And you were NR8, weren't you? So if I go there, now, this is where we come to one of the interesting bits. All the stuff that I've done is kept in my copy of Parish Online. And of course, everything that I do is pertinent to Long Sutton. But there's absolutely nothing to stop me doing exactly the same stuff in Drayton. The issue is that none of you will be able to come back to it because it's my copy. So basically, your data stays with you and nobody else can see it, which is nice to know from the point of view of data security and so forth. So what I'm doing now is I'm going to play with you and build up some things, but you won't be able to keep them on your copy of Parish Online because I only have access to mine. But I just thought it'd be fun for you to do it in your area. So one of the things that people do, and I think are fascinating that what we can do, is that I think you're about to take over the responsibilities for the streetlights, aren't you? And putting streetlights into the map can be a tedious and painstaking process, except that we have a little trick up our sleeves. So let's go into Drayton and find a road which is fairly busy and probably got some streetlights on it, which I imagine is sort of here. And we'll let the system catch up. And in the meantime, you can say, let's turn on an overhead photograph. So you can turn on an overhead photograph. And the beauty of the photography is it lines up itself up with the picture on the map. So what you've got now is a combination of the map and the photography. And it looks a little bit confusing. And the reason is you've got a scale up here that says show a degree of transparency of the map. So if I right click, you'll see that the 60% map and 40% photograph. If I go all the way to the right, it's 100% map. You know what that looks like. If I go all the way to the left, it's 100% photograph. And you can see what that's look like. Somewhere in the middle, it can be sort of helpful to have both sometimes, not always. But if I zoom in now, and a lot of this depends upon where the sun was when the photograph was taken. I'm just waiting for it to catch up for where we are. But you may very well, and this happens with lots of other places, and you can see it here, you can see the lines of the shadows from the street lamps. So this is a street lamp down here with the shadow going out into the road. So you can add a street lamp and just put it there because you know where that is. And then if you go all the way along the road, it's a piece of cake to start adding street lamps. You don't have to know where they all are. You can just find them from their shadows. So that's sort of a nice, interesting tip.
Graham,
yes.
sorry, it's Ange here. When we last spoke, which was probably a good year or more ago, I don't know now, you had a sort of, or there was a new mobile gizmo out where, say, like our maintenance man could go out, stand next to a street lamp, and via his phone, effectively upload the position of. Is that still?
We need to be very careful there, Angie. What he can upload is a photograph of the street lamp, which is really useful to you, because if you're going to keep track of which ones are sodium lights, which ones are LEDs, which ones are on steel posts, which one are on carbon posts. Or
sounds familiar.
posts,
yeah.
you can get all of that from the photograph, but he has to upload that photograph to something.
Right.
So the street light needs to have an entry in your asset register or your parish layer before he can do that. What happens is the GPS on his phone knows where he is. So he can go into Parish Online on his phone. It will orient him where he is. And then it'll show him the street light position that you put in earlier. And he just clicks on that and the photograph is allocated to it.
All right, so that has to come first. All right, thank you. Sorry.
Yeah, that's all right. So that was one of the things that you're going to be responsible for is street lights. So I'm just showing you how you can start putting the street lights into your asset register, because you can tell where, you see how they all are, look at them, lots of them. And it's quite easy to do for the main roads. May not be so easy for the roads where there may be fewer shadows or the buildings get in the way or whatever, but nonetheless, it can save you a lot of trouble. You can also do exactly the same thing with allotments. If you have a lot of allotments that you're worried about, what you can do is put the map onto the allotments. It may or may not show the outline boundary of the allotments. Usually it will show them, but you don't have any details of the individual lots inside. But if you overlay the photograph on top of the map, then you can just trace around the outside of each allotment. You know how many plots you've got. You can say who owns each one, how much rent they pay, whatever it happens to be. I do have a funny story about that. I was doing this with a local village to us, and the guy that I was showing it to said, go down to the bottom left corner. He said, and zoom in a bit. And we waited for the picture to clear. And he said, thank goodness for that. I was worried you were going to see a picture of me lounging on my beach chair, drinking beer. But you can get that detail. So what we're looking at now is a photograph on a sort of a medium scale, 50 meters to this scale here, but you can zoom in a lot further. And depending on the day the photograph was taken, you know, you can get, you can start counting the leaves on the trees and that sort of thing if you want to. And
Graham,
yes.
Can I just ask another quick question in relation to the street lights? When we take them over, all we will get is a list with an address, like outside 26 Main Road.
Yep.
So we don't get OS numbers or anything like that. Does your map know where 26 Main Road is?
That is a fabulous question, and I'm extremely pleased to say, watch this, right? Every single building now has a red dot. Every red dot will tell you where it is. So that's 149 Fakenham Road. This is 151. If you zoom in a bit, you know, all the details show up without you even having to click on them. So now you know exactly where you are.
Yeah, lovely. Thank you.
Isn't that good? Yes.
Yep, brilliant.
I should have said somewhere along the way that everything you put into Parish Online, you can get out again as a report. So if you've put in details, say, of all the street lights, and then you want to do maintenance, or you want to say these were all changed or inspected on one date, you can produce a spreadsheet of them all that you just got out of Parish Online. Then you can play the spreadsheet, and you haven't had to generate anything. It's all done it for you. So it's a bit laborious getting the information in, but once it's in there, then it's fabulously fast at getting data out. So the reports that you have to make every 6 months or a year or whatever that you do can just be at the click of a mouse switch. Now, we were talking about you've got a sort of a jubilee coming up and you want to have details of street maps and so forth or whatever.
It's more about how we, having a look at the field and thinking about how we plot it out, where we put, I don't know, the main entertainer, where we have the side shows, where we put the car
Absolutely.
parking,
So
that
why
sort
don't
of
we
thing.
do just that? perhaps you could drive me, Angie, to where the field is. I'm just going to zoom out a bit so you can direct me.
Along the Drayton High Road. What's the actual address of our pavilion?
Just so King
And I-
George V.
You got a, you have a postal code for it, or just
SAW.
if you I can either type in an address or I can type in a postal.
6AW.
6OW,
AW.
like that.
That's it.
Okay, so there it is. Let's zoom it in a bit. And you can tell me if it looks right. Oh, recreation ground. Look at that. Spot on. Is that where it's going to be?
That's right, yeah.
All right. So let me just say, for example, that suppose you want to put a row of event tents down the middle or wherever they're going to be, or you want to know how many can you get in there. All right. We can go into a parish layer. And we can say we want to create a new layer. And it's going to be the Platinum Day. Just for argument's sake. And I'm just showing you the basic principles here. We're going to choose a polygon because it's going to be area discussing. And we're going to put things like the name. And we're going to put the name of the owner. And we're going to put the name of, let's just say for argument's sake, status. Okay. And then you say we're done. And then we say on that layer, which is now arrived down at the bottom of our page, Platinum Day, we want to add a feature. And the feature is going to be a whole row of rectangles. So it says, so how big are these rectangles? And you might say, well, these are not going to be football pitch sizes. They're going to be sort of the size of a marquee that's just 6 by 6. So you can say, I have one of those, and you say, okay. And then you just say, I'm going to put it there. And there it is. Then you can do it again, and you can get a whole row of them along there. So it was very quick to add in the marquee, and you can say that this one is the, I don't know, the beer tent. And that's owned by the parish council, of course, because you want to make money. And the status is drunk.
Probably, hopefully.
Yeah, exactly. So that's that one saved. Now you can do it again and say, I want another 6 by 6 preset.
I just happened to see while you've gone down there, Graham, does that mean that inherent within Parish Online, we can easily tell how big a tennis court is, a football pitch? It'd be just interesting just to see.
Oh, absolutely. It'll give you a standard
Just
size.
thinking about a blank field and you could play around with football pitches.
Oh, yes,
So,
absolutely. Well, let's put in, let's put a tennis court in there.
Come in
All right,
different
so-
sizes though, Angie.
It's going to be in the, oh, sorry.
yeah, indeed.
No, that's the middle of the cricket square.
That's what, now,
Never mind.
one of the beauties of, and we'll say this is going to be the tennis field, I don't know. Do we spell tennis that way?
That'll do for me.
Not quite like that, but you know what I mean. And this is going to be Anne's, and she's also going to be drunk.
Good.
And then you decide, and this is one of the things I really like about Parish Online, this isn't in the right place. So we'll say, let's move it. All right, so we click on it because that's how we get its data. And we say, I want to edit this. It's the wrong shape and it's the wrong place. So you can say, all right, first of all, let's zoom in a little bit because it's easier to deal with when it's larger. And then we can say, it'd be really nice if it was square. And then this one is too long. In actual fact, we've got it in the wrong place anyway. It needs to be up near the marquee. So let's move it. And moving it is really quite simple. And you say, there we go. Okay, and then, by the way, you wanted to, we're going to save that. And then we come up to our tools and we say, measure, how big is this ruddy thing? and it'll tell you it's going to be I don't quite know why I managed that, but never mind. 120 square yards. And you can, if you'd like it to be metric, you can change it. Oh, sorry, not that one. Measurements. Yes, you can make it in hectares or square meters or whatever. So it's 101 square meters. So those sorts of things are there. Now, the other sorts of things that people tend to do for parish councils, if you want a contractor to mow the grass for you, so you can select the area on which he's going to mow the grass. Let's just say, for instance, this tennis court is the area that you're interested in. Let's come out of this, adding data to it, and say, I want to give this to my particular contractor, and he knows that this is the tennis court, and you want him to mow it or clean it or sweep it or whatever. So you can say, I want to produce this on a map. So I'm going to print it out. And this is mowing. It would be if I could spell. And this description is the tennis court. Obviously, we have grass courts in Drayton. And I want it to be a PDF, and I want him to know where the north is, and I want him to have, that's it. So I'll print it. And up pops a square that tells you this is what you're going to send. And now the contractor, if you change the details so he's more clear as to where he is, he knows exactly which area he's going to mow, how big it is, and you can say how often he has to do it and put all this into the contract. So that's sort of another area which I thought could be helpful to you. Are you decided yet whether you're going to build a new parish office or not?
Well, that's
on the Zoom.
Million-dollar question.
There's a million-dollar question.
But
nevertheless, something like this could allow us to play around with positionings and thinkings and whatever have you. Yes,
precisely.
Certainly that's a wish.
So I think I've shown you what's possible. I'm wide open to any requests or questions if you'd like to see or talk about anything else. None of this is which I've done in Drayton is going to appear on your copy of Parish Online. So all this work has just been for my excitement, not yours.
So as well as measuring areas, it can obviously measure length. So like as an example, we're thinking about replacing a fence up at one of our other recs. We can easily check to see how big it is and if that matches the quotations that come in, can't we?
Precisely,
You can do this
yes.
straight line measuring.
So if I go back to the map and we go back to the regular map.
Yeah, if we just look at King George, for example, if we were going to put a fence, I don't know, down that back edge or something.
Right along here?
Yeah, why not? Doesn't matter where.
I want to measure, let's just say I want to go from here to there, to there. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm doing area. Let's go for length. That makes more sense. Let's go from there to there and down to there. And so you instantly know, and I do a double click to say I've finished. That's 20 meters. Oh, sorry, 20 rods. That's the wrong sort of thing for a length, isn't it? Let's go for a meter. So 100 meters.
Yeah.
And again, that's very precise. If you don't like, let's finish with you. Sorry, don't want to do the clear. Let's just say, you can, if you like, say, I want to draw a line along here to show him where it's going to go. And you can be very precise. So if you can say, let's go in a little bit. I want it to be on the inside edge of this particular layer. We'll make this, do I have a line one? Let me just create a new one. So we're going to create a new layer. It's going to be fencing. It's going to be a line. And it's going to be just a particular name. That's all we need. So now we're going to zoom down to that layer, which is, sorry, we've gone down too far. Let's come down to our layers. There we go, fencing. We want to add a feature. So now we're going to add our line. So you can just mark it on the map here. And I like to do what I call quick and dirty to start with. So you just sort of get it approximately right and say, there we go. And that's my fence. And you can say, this is going to be the sports field. And save it. And you can now tell exactly how long it is, but you can also say, look, if I put it on the wrong side of the fence, I can just move it over to this side. So let's go into here, go into this one. I want to move it. So you can say, let's get a bit more precise here. And you can say, let's bring this movement down to the actual there. Sorry, let's bring it shorter. There we go. Bit more scope needed. Let's come here. All right, that's what we want. We want that sort of length there, and we want it to be a bit more precise here. So let's get up there, and then we want to go around that corner like that, and then coming down to the bottom. And now you know it's quite precise. I'm just going to make sure we've got the bottom in the right place, which we have. So we'll save it. And then you can go into the record and it says how long it is. It's exactly 103.07 meters. And you haven't had to do a thing. It's all there for you. So I hope that's been helpful. You can add anything you like into this record. So you can sort of give quotes of cost per meter or cost per height or length or whatever it happens to be, so that you can use this as a record of quotations. You can get a quotation from ABC and from XYZ, and you can compare the two very easily because they're both in here. Anything else that I can cover for you at this stage? Oh yeah, let me mention a couple of things. So every month I do training classes in Parish Online, and as it happens, this month we're sort of going back to basics. So if you're interested, you newcomers, if you'd like to do how do I do this in Parish Online, and what on earth is this line of menus up here mean, there are all lectures going on this month about that. I'll send that to you in the email afterwards, but I just thought you might want to know. Particularly the first one is on Wednesday or Thursday of this week, so that may be too quick for you, but I just mentioned it in passing. There is something I always like to mention to you, because there is a Zoom session every Friday afternoon between 3 and 4, to which everybody is invited to drop in and ask questions. So there's a group of the usual suspects who are just sitting there sort of chattering to each other, and they have, they're all either parish councillors or parish clerks, but they've all got at least 10 years of experience of using Parish Online. And they're just sitting there waiting for people like you to drop in and say, could you please show me how to get the area of a tennis court, because Graham showed me and I've completely forgotten everything he said. So they'll do it for you right there and then online on Zoom, and they will point you in the right direction. So every Friday afternoons between 3 and 4, it's ad hoc sessions. Drop-ins are very welcome. We look eagerly for new faces and any question you like. And then if you're fascinated by our wry humor, you can stay online, but most people say that's enough, thank you very much, and off they go after having spent 33 1/3 seconds in getting their question answered. So are there any questions that I haven't answered that you'd like to see or hear about or ask about or anything?
Can I just ask, when you've created a layer, because I've been playing around on ours as you've been talking.
Oh, right.
Where
are you female by chance? You're multitasking.
Last time I checked, I am, yeah.
Yeah.
Where does it get stored to?
Where does it get stored to? Oh, it gets
where do I go
stored in
back
a
to it?
big database in the sky.
But where do I, as in, where do I find it on the menu? I might not have saved it correctly.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So go into your parish layers, Sarah.
Yeah.
And it'll be down the bottom.
Yeah.
You found it?
I have, yeah.
Good. So now you can right click in the layer itself, and that will add a feature, and you can start putting in details.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Okay.
So you can add text and things to this as well if you wanted to, like labels and
apps, all those things. So yes, that all seemed to be a bit much to me for your first introduction session, but everything, yes. Much the same ways. Do you remember when you were looking at my planning applications? Every planning application had the name of the planning or the number of the planning application on it. That was showing as a label. They were all color coded according to where they were. So that was styling. So that you can fix it up in all sorts of ways. It's quite an interesting program, and there's lots and lots of stuff in it, which seems very daunting to begin with. But once you get into it, it's all very sensible and intuitive. And in point of fact, I find that most people only need 1 or 2 lessons, and they're off on their own steam. And some people don't need any lessons at all. Like it sounds like you're well on your way, and you've just been here for 5 minutes.
I've just listening. The other question I had was, can you print from it? So say, for example, I designed the layout for the Jubilee session on here. Could I then print it?
Absolutely. Well, didn't we show that? I thought I'd shown that to you. Maybe I did.
Sorry, I might have been.
But okay, so if we just shrink out of here a bit, so we find back to here are your bits and events. So you can say print, and it squares where it's got the square for you is where it's going to print. So you can say, actually, I want to zoom out and get a bit more information, or a bit like that. Or you can say, I need to get closer until you've got the size you want. And then what you see here will appear in the print. Everything that's in the block, the square block. And then you just actually say, so now print it. It whirs away to itself. And you can now click on here. And this is what you get. I should have shown you, I'm sorry. Up here on the top right, you can either download it as a PDF file, or you can print it out on a piece of paper, whichever you wish.
That's going to be my next question. So
okay.
Answer that.
You're on a roll, Sarah. Keep going.
It's as good as your imagination, really. My dream had been for the ladies that eventually we'd use, and Graham knows this, Parish Online as a sort of issue logging database. So I don't know.
Oh, you mentioned absolutely.
So yes. For me, as a counsellor, I don't necessarily know what parishioners have reported to you clerks. And so if somebody mentions something to me, I always had this dream that I wanted a database where I could go and say, oh, it's already looked at, it's gone to NCC. So take the example of bog stand in one of a street light. Let's say we've got a street light in one of our roads and some parishioners told you it's out. I could go on Parish Online and see that you've logged against that it's out, and you've told TT Jones, to fix it, etc. And that had always been my dream, was to be able to follow them through, and then you'd say fixed, finished, or whatever.
Well, as it happens, that's exactly what we do in Long Sutton with our footpaths.
Oh, you pinched my idea. I knew you would, Graham.
Well, no. I just wanted to demonstrate to you that it's possible. So what we do is ask people to let us know when things are going wrong with footpaths, when they find that stiles are rotting or they're overgrown or whatever. So we say, would you let us know? And let me just come back now. I need to get back into my neck of the woods.
Yes. I think that will only work if the reports are made to the parish clerk. But Graham's idea, particularly with the street lights, is that people will report them direct to TT Jones, so we won't even know.
Well, no, that's fine. That was a bad example. But let's say it's a poo bin, very topical.
I mean, other things,
or a salt bin that's empty, or a pothole, or whatever, I agree. I understand that the TT Jones thing, but it'd be quite good actually. If I was thinking, I know TT Jones are going to put labels on all our street lights. It'd be quite nice to just take a photo of that label and stick it on the asset in here, and then you could instantly see, couldn't you, as well? Anyhow, the trouble with this thing is,
can you still see my screen?
Yeah.
So what I've got are people have called in and said there are problems with the footpaths. So problems that are not yet dealt with are in red, and you can click on them and see where they are. You can see what the problem is. This is what the owner the dog walker reported. The gate's overgrown and impossible. And then when we fixed it, we turn it to green. And so when you're talking to your lengthsman, you can say, please go out and fix all the red gates. And then he comes back and says, I've done the red ones, now what? And you say, well, we still got to go and fix the blue ones, but they're a bit more tricky, or they're going to cost more money, or whatever it is. But exactly what you're saying, Angie, it's we've been there, we've done that. So I'm only saying that to show you that it's possible. Not for any other reason, but also we get lots of photographs of the styles to show the condition. So if I wanted you to see what condition this one is, have I got a picture of it? Yes, no, yes, I've got 4 pictures. So you can go in here and say, I want to see this one. And there it is. Oh, well.
Yes, that's definitely overgrown.
It's definitely overgrown. It's not in very good condition. And what is that strange piece of pink baling rope doing there? Yeah. So, but it's so much easier to understand when you can see it. And you can say to the lensman, will you please go and chop down the grass and clean up the gate? And he knows exactly what he's got to do.
Like in that Anne, aren't you?
Well, I would. If we had a lensman in Norfolk, they took them all away, didn't they?
Yeah. The other thing that Graham showed, and I think he might have slightly showed you, but last time what I was really impressed with is like their playgrounds. Obviously, they have the swings down as assets, but the inspection certificates are actually held next
on the swings. That's right.
So you can see when it's and it tells you when you're next due, so you can run off a report to say this needs inspecting. Now it's 4 months due.
Children's playground,
which I thought was really cool.
Let's turn this one off.
That's me.
Let's turn that one off. And now I've turned on the playground equipment, so you can't see it until you zoom into it a bit. Doesn't make sense at this scale. But as we zoom in, you discover that there's a whole bunch of dots here. And then now it's making more and more sense. This is the playground area that we measured earlier. And so you can say, so what is this? And you can say, this is a swing. And here's the report for last year. And here's the report for this year. And you can see the difference, and you can see what they were reporting. There it is. And you can see we've now put a note on it saying, don't use it, it's dangerous. And we put the swing up so that people won't use it until we fix the issue. And basically, this is wonderful, isn't it, from an insurance company's point of view, because you've got the photographic evidence of what you did and when you did it. And if someone now comes along and says, Charlie's broken his leg because he fell off the swing, you can say, well, tough beans, you did that on such and such a date, which was a month after we put the sign up saying, don't use this. So exactly what you're saying, Angie, we just need to, you just need to keep a record, and you do need someone who's going to wander around with his camera saying, I've done this or whatever. But we've got people who got used to the idea of Parish Online being their database for everything.
It's just good because in my head, everything is together. You click on the asset and there's all you could ever need to know about it, and rather than having to go through a load of drawers or whatever. But
well, there are parish councils who run their entire parish council meetings through Parish Online, because whenever there's a topic that comes up, says we need to replace the village notice boards, or whatever it is, all the stuff the parish councils get involved with, it really helps to have a photograph of the notice board there that people can see what the problem is. You know, it just needs a bit of new varnish or a new coat of paint, or it's so rotten you've got to replace the whole thing. But it's so much easier if you can show it. And if you show it on a map, people can remind themselves where it is, because some parish councillors don't have enough knowledge of the local, their sort of council, their parish area to know exactly which notice board you're talking about. But you can put a picture of it, you can show it on the map, and bingo, they're in a much better position to make a decision as to whether or not to repaint it or replace it or whatever they're going to do with it. So I think that it's a fabulous system. In case you just in case you haven't got that impression from me already, I'll just reiterate it that I think it can be a huge time saver once it's up and running. But unfortunately, getting it up and running involves a bit of effort. There's a learning curve, and then things need to be transferred into the asset register. But the beauty of that is it doesn't all have to be done, in one afternoon. You can just do it at 10 minutes a week, and gradually you'll get there.
And has it changed much since you last looked at it?
No.
No.
More or less, yeah, what I remember. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good.
No. Any more questions? All dumbfounded, I think, Graham.
Sarah, I'm depending on you to come up with some brilliant insight.
I think I just need to have a bit of a play around.
Yes, do.
Yep.
There's, as I said, there's hundreds of layers of information to choose from. So whatever if you've got a hobby, whether it's disused railway lines or whether it's what used to be here back 100 years ago, you can show that. So, for instance, we put out, we have a link to Somerset Heritage, and they're rather fun because they give us all the tithe maps. So you can go back and see what was happening back in 1840 around here, which is fun. So if I turn off the play area, that would make more sense. Sorry, let's go down here. Turn off the play area. But now you can see and turn off the map above there, that one. Now you can see what it looked like 150 years ago.
Wow.
You'll recognize that sort of thing. Oh, I didn't mention something. One of the really useful ones is the land registry. So if you need to know what are all the cadastral areas for your parish, just turn them on. So let's turn off that one. Come down a bit, go into the land registry. There we go. And you can turn on all the parcels and they all show up. So what if someone argues with you about whether they own a piece of land or not, you've got the land registry right here. The code number here is what you punch into the land registry website. It'll tell you exactly who the owner is and when it last changed hands and that sort of thing. So, I mean, there's an enormous amount of stuff, but I hope I've just sort of indicated that there's any number of things that you can find through digital mapping.
Yep.
It's the wave of the future.
Certainly is.
Right, I'm going to stop sharing and just come back to you all to say, are we done? Are you happy? Are you peaceful? Or are you all shocked?
No, good.
Well, I think we can say that we're very lucky that my camera didn't fall off. I'm still expecting it to, but never mind. It's been lovely to meet you all. Nice to see you again, Angie.
Thank you once again, Graham. Thank you very much.
And I hope that you have a wonderful time with Parish Online. Good luck with it.
I hope you do.
Thank
too.
you.
I will follow up with the
Okay.
video. I'll follow up with the letter of all the things that you might want to find useful.
Brilliant.
Okay.
Brilliant.
Take
Yeah,
care, all of you.
super.
Thank
you very
you.
much.
Good evening. Bye-bye.
Good night. Night all.